No price talk and no Lambos. This is not another crypto podcast. Welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Jillian, and each week we will be looking at the problems solved by blockchain. I'll be going deep with the people building the apps and communities which are changing the world around us. Hello and welcome to the EOS Dublin podcast called Ignition with me, Jillian Gotzel. Now, today I have a very interesting guest coming all the way from Kiev. Is it snowy there at the moment? And his name is Roman Skaskiw from CryptoLions. Good morning, Roman. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Is it snowy? Is it cold?
No, we've had a nice sun for 2 days in a row now. So the snow's melting. It's still a little bit on the street, but it's turning into spring, which is quite nice.
Oh, that's soon, isn't it? Because it's only, today is the 8th of February. So,
yes.
Oh, that's cool. So, Roman, we haven't spoken before, but I'm very keen. I was just saying I was in Kiev last January, actually. A beautiful city. I was only there for a couple of days, but I really, really loved it. Loved the people. Very, very friendly. Great English. What do you speak in Kiev? Do you speak Russian or do you speak Ukrainian, or what is the language?
In Kiev, it's 50-50, Russian, Ukrainian.
Okay, I speak neither. But fortunately, your fellow countrymen and women had a very good grasp of English, so I was made very welcome.
Yes.
So very friendly. So Roman, tell me, are you a native Ukrainian? Is that where you were born and brought up?
No, I was born and raised in the United States, in New York, as it turns out, New York City.
All right, okay. Tell your name is throwing me, but are your parents from Ukraine?
My parents are both Ukrainian. They left as children, fleeing communism. Mm-hmm. So they very slowly made their way to the United States, and they met and married there, and sort of brought me up in part of this displaced Ukrainian community. So I spoke Ukrainian at an early age. Then about 20 years passed where I didn't say a word. But when I started visiting Ukraine for the first time in my adulthood, I kind of liked it more and more. I started coming back. The language amazingly came back all the way from my childhood.
Brilliant.
And I've been here for about 6 years. I'm married, have a boy.
And did you marry a Ukrainian woman?
I certainly did.
Wow.
Yes.
So now you're home.
Yes. Well, yeah, I do travel. I split my time between the United States and here. But yeah, I'd say more than half of it is here.
Wow. Is that an unusual thing to do? Do many Ukrainians manage to get home again and find a career back in the Ukraine?
I think it's a typical pattern where labor is fleeing Ukraine towards the higher prices of the West, and entrepreneurs, people who are lucky enough to be able to be entrepreneurs, are moving this way to have access to the talent. I think Ukraine has the best talent per dollar in the world. Wow.
Well, I have heard very good things actually about, obviously I haven't been there as well, but I have heard very good things. So tell me, your career, did you do in the US, did you do your college career there, or did you do it back in the Ukraine? Where did you?
I did university in the US. First, I was working and going to school part-time for about 3 years, and then I managed to finish full-time. I got a computer science degree.
Brilliant.
I got it at the height of the first internet bubble. So my classmates at Stanford were being hired for 6-digit starting bonuses right out of university.
Wow.
And I made a rather unusual decision, and I decided to join the military. So I had a 6-year Army career.
In the U.S. Army?
In the U.S. Army, and not for anything at all related to computer science. I was an infantry officer, so about as far away from computer science as you can get.
How did that come about? That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
It's extremely unusual, yeah. So how did it come about? I don't know. Well, I was programming out of high school, so I had a job at the age of 19 developing software. So I was earning more money than either of my parents ever made, or as much money at 19 years old, and I think it was just a combination of feeling like I could do that whenever I wanted.
Yes.
There was that.
Had you always wanted to join the Army?
No, it wasn't an easy decision, but part of it was looking for adventure. Part of it was just a sense of gratitude. Just my parents, like I said, they fled communism, and we did really well there. My sister's a doctor. I went to one of the top universities. So there was a bit of a sense of gratitude as well. And it just felt like a good thing to do. I feel like gratitude is out of fashion nowadays.
Oh, I think it's coming back in.
Let's hope so.
I am big on gratitude, and for other reasons, I'm starting a second career, if you like, or is it a third? I can't quite remember. But I'm big on gratitude, and I think I see a lot. But mind you, like finds like. I think I mix with people now who understand the gratitude concept, and I think I choose to. And I think sometimes it's not, it's not like the opposites attracting. It's just like follows like. We live in a world where we live in bubbles, where we follow people who think the same way that we do. So I think there's loads of gratitude out there. So I'm with you on that one. So then tell me, you finished your army career, and then you came out, and what was the next step for you?
I went to a school for wannabe writers because I'm also a wannabe writer.
Oh, cool. No, you are a writer. Don't say wannabe, say I'm a writer.
Yeah, no, I am. I've been paid for both fiction and nonfiction. You can find my name. My favorite on Amazon, some self-published books, but also a series of essays in the New York Times about my disillusionment with the military. Yeah, so search for my name in New York Times if you want to read about
oh my
little
goodness.
bit about my disillusionments.
This is like opening a box of chocolates. I had no idea. That's you surprised me twice now. Wow, I will go and look. And you've written fiction as well.
Yes.
I will. What type of fiction do you write?
I've written all kinds, but what I've been most successful with is related to my military experiences. So I was in an anthology called Fire and Forget, anthology of modern military fiction, and I self-published some of my own military fiction, which had appeared in journals. So first they appeared in journals, and I self-published them. They're kind of novella length. And I've also written children's stuff, but that hasn't gotten much traction. Okay. And then eventually I got tired of being poor, so I.
So it's not that you were a wannabe writer; it's just that you were a very broke writer.
Yeah, as are most writers.
Yeah, I'm a writer too. I get that. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Let's talk more about that. But teaching seems to be like the business model for writers, at least in America. And I don't know. I didn't want to be a part of academia. But anyway, software is very interesting, and it creates a lot of possibilities. So I found my way back to software, to crypto in particular.
And tell me how you first stumbled across crypto. What was that like?
I was writing for a libertarian journal in the United States, writing articles about them. And the author, for my first article, the editor of the journal, the owner editor, said, you can get payment in Bitcoin or in dollars. What would you like? And I looked into Bitcoin because I'd never heard of it before, and it seemed really cool, but also like a real hassle. So I said, pay me in dollars, please. And I got about $20. For my second article, he was a very idealistic guy. He wanted to get away from fiat currency. So he said, for the second article, it was like, look, I'm no longer using dollars. I don't like the Federal Reserve System. I think it's fundamentally a scam. You have to take Bitcoin for this article. I was like, okay, if I have to take Bitcoin, send me $20 worth of Bitcoin. So yeah. I received 8 Bitcoin.
Wow. And do you still have those? Do you have those 8 original ones?
No, I'm sure I don't. I sold them along the way, so they got lost. But I didn't do badly, obviously.
Yes, yeah, wow. So you were one of the people who actually experienced the use of Bitcoin as opposed to the hype, and actually earned it. That's kind of interesting. So I would be the same, because my first cryptocurrencies I earned. I didn't buy them. I'm not a speculator. I'm not a trader, whatever. And it's quite a different. People say, "Oh, what?" In the early days, people say, "Oh, crazy stuff." And I'm going, well, I earned it, so it seems normal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's just another currency.
Yeah. So then, what happened then with the blockchain? How did when did you move into that, or what was the progression there?
Well, I became more excited about Bitcoin the more I learned about it, and when I moved to Ukraine, I guess in 2012, I started a couple of Bitcoin clubs here. The guy who is now my co-founder, he's also my son's godfather. He and I made some Bitcoin gaming sites in 2013. They did not get much traction, unfortunately. We did not beat Satoshi Dice to market, not by a long shot. So that niche was already kind of filled, but it gave us a lot of experience. And then I moved to some other software companies. I was CTO of a marketing company for a while. And then when EOS came around, I was like, okay, this is going to be something special. I need to go back to crypto. So my old friend with whom I made those gaming sites, his name is Bogdan. Many people in the EOS community know him. He and I founded CryptoLions and became EOS block producers and the makers of various tools and curators of the jungle testnet.
Wow. So tell me, just explain a bit more in detail about CryptoLions? The name, first of all, where did that come from?
Well, we're spread across 2 Ukrainian cities, Kiev and Lviv. Lviv is the big city in the west. Lviv is the city of lions. It was named after the son of a king whose name was Lev. That's where the name Lviv comes from, lion. And there's lions all over the place. And we actually had a little chat in Slack where we would just speculate about crypto news. And the name of this chat was CryptoLions, where he and I and a few other people, we just kind of watched the crypto markets and notice things and share stories with each other, kind of like a private social media site just for us, just for our little. And we call that group CryptoLions, and
it's nice and catchy.
Yeah, we liked the name, and we made it the block producer name.
Yeah, that's so cool. And becoming a block producer, what persuaded you that was the way to go?
Let's see. Well, it seemed a natural choice because Bogdan is a super talented IT guy. And block producing fundamentally is an IT task where you have to set up and run servers and handle a lot of communication as well, which has kind of become my job. So it was just a natural choice, and we thought it would give us a foothold in the ecosystem, which it certainly has. And then from there, we could be a little more creative and build cool things.
And tell me about some of the cool things. Sorry, tell me about some of the cool things you're building in CryptoLions.
Well, the Jungle testnet is certainly the most popular one. We weren't the first testnet, but just given Bogdan's abilities, superhuman abilities to just do work and he's so good at when something new comes out, just diving into it and learning it so quickly. So the Jungle testnet really became a special place, and I think because of Bogdan's enthusiasm, it attracted a lot of other good technical teams, and it kind of just became this good center of gravity for testing and development. And so many popular EOS applications launched there before launching. And I think that kind of brings out the best in us. So there's that. We built the EOS network monitor very early on. So again, this is Bogdan just being super enthusiastic and just getting things out there so fast.
Yes.
The network monitor has become less important as more block explorers have come online, but it's still a great place to go to see the health of the network on a single screen. So no searching, no digging, just in a single display, you can see all kinds of statistics, and you can customize the table to show the columns that interest you, and just it shows the current status of the EOS network. So there's that. This is not public yet, but we built a working prototype of an asset exchange. So by asset, I mean a non-fungible token.
Yes.
So, dollars, Bitcoins, EOS, they're fungible. It doesn't matter if you own $1 or a different dollar, one Bitcoin or a different Bitcoin, they're all exchangeable.
Yeah.
But then if you want to talk about something like an art market or unique items in video games, you have a completely different sort of theoretical problem of where every token is unique. Different people have solved this problem on Ethereum. There's the 721 token. Everyone's heard of the ERC20. There's an ERC 721 token, which is non-fungible. And the Wax blockchain, created by the guys who first had a skins market, then they made the blockchain. That's another. Yeah.
William Quigley, yeah.
Yeah. And we made, in a remarkably short period of time, we made a functional prototype with a front end and a really simple protocol. I think it's powerful because it is so simple, and anyone can create assets and then put them up for sale. And more importantly, so the existing asset exchanges, they kind of have a token to create scarcity, so they could build some business plan around this. But we're block producers. We are funding our business by people voting for us.
Yeah.
So we're building this protocol that's free and open source. It doesn't have a business plan tied to it. We're just doing it because it's cool, and we'll see if it can catch on. We think it solves an important problem, and it does so simply. There is another standard out there being developed by the guys from Mythical Games called the D-Goods standard. They're moving a little more slowly. We've actually talked to them, so we think that they might be like a really sort of high-end, complicated, fancy standard that will include things like tracing the authenticity of a bottle of wine, and have a bunch of additional functionality like that. And maybe our what we're calling simple assets will be either an educational tool
Mm-hmm.
or a simple standard for games that just need the basic functionality of creating and selling assets. Although there is a lot of power in the simplicity too. So we're kind of excited to shop it around and show it to people and see how that goes.
And that's not public yet.
It's not public yet. No, now we're doing some private. We're showing people it privately and getting feedback.
And what type of customers do you think you might have on it? What way people will use it?
Games, first of all, games. Mm-hmm. We thought of doing a fundraiser for the Jungle Testnet. There's a lot of teams supporting the Jungle Testnet. We call ourselves not the owners, but the curators. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of teams that have been running servers for a long time, supporting this wonderful testing environment that has been very important for the EOS network. We found more than one critical bug in EOS on the Jungle Testnet. We've also had different attacks on the Jungle Testnet, which could have easily happened against the mainnet, but they were good guy hackers who demonstrated some flaws on the Jungle Testnet, and we brought those fixes to the mainnet. So, but the point I'm making, there are block producers supporting the Jungle Testnet who are not earning anything on the mainnet because they don't have enough votes.
Yes.
So we thought we would do a funny sort of fundraiser and reward them. And this idea was not ours. Somebody else suggested it to us. But we thought of chopping up the Jungle Classic testnet. We migrated from Jungle Classic to Jungle 2, chopping it up virtually and making virtual chunks of it and then selling them as digital souvenirs.
Oh, I like that.
I have no idea if this is viable or not, but I think the novelty of it might have something there. Kind of like buying parts of the Berlin Wall after the fall of communism.
Yes, yeah. I was thinking too, I was involved in an art project recently where I had volunteered to be a nude sitter. I'm owning my age and my being a woman, and I said, I'm going to do this, And we were thinking about, I said, I wonder when it's finished. Could we cut it up and put it on the blockchain in little pieces, So you'd have to maybe make, I don't know, 1,000 of them and sell them all for 100 each or something like that. Or I don't know. And then see if someone would be bothered to put it all together. Or maybe I'd have to buy them all to destroy it if it was that bad.
Right. Yeah. We actually talked about this a lot, how to do art with digital assets. So you could change any image to a blob of binary code, just a blob of digital code. But that creates a big burden on memory.
Right.
But it's up to you. So in simple assets, you could do it in one of two ways. You could just make this binary blob of every image and store it in your asset if you're willing to pay for the RAM. Or you could just store a URL and store the image in some centralized way and put the URL in the asset. But the simplicity, I really like our protocol because you could do both. It leaves everything up to you. So
I'm going to have a conversation with you after this podcast on that because I've got lots of ideas in this space and I want to advance them. That's very interesting. I hope other people listening will also approach you for it. So the other thing I wanted to just talk to you about today as well is the EuropeChain.
Yeah, we're thrilled to be founding partners of EuropeChain. I love the value proposition. And the problem that we're addressing is this. Enterprises are really conservative. So EuropeChain it's for European enterprises, European companies primarily. So we're optimizing for that. Companies are very conservative. They worry about things like GDPR, the European privacy requirements. They are loath to manage their own private keys in many cases. So creating a fiat gateway for them where they don't have to touch private keys or some service where they can keep private keys at arm's length. That's a big part of the value proposition. So I think EuropeChain is a blockchain solution to a sort of big part of the world economy that is too conservative for traditional blockchains. Yes.
You're 100% right. The other thing to factor as well, I mean, I obviously live in Europe. I live in Ireland, in the EU. So we're very conscious of GDPR. But if you are a company in the rest of the world that wants to do business with the pesky Europeans, you also have to comply. Isn't it funny? Because it's not just for the Europeans, it's for people who want to do business with Europeans.
Yes. And even people who don't, but people who want a blockchain on which all of the block producers are sort of legitimate, transparent companies. So anybody who's more conservative, conservative, like kind of what we think of old school business. They are very concerned about who they're associated with, and they don't want to be touched by any people who've done scams and stuff like that. So they may also be interested in just going to a blockchain where all the block producers are decentralized, but each one of them is legitimate, or I shouldn't say legitimate, but just a transparent, fully legal business.
That's a very good point.
I get the use case for operating outside of the reach of government. I think that's important too, to avoid that sort of tyranny. I understand that very well. I used to write for a libertarian magazine. I've written for the Mises Institute. So I know that use case too, and I believe in it. But I think there's another use case as well, which is EuropeChain.
Yeah, that's cool. And I hadn't actually considered that. That is actually interesting, because you're right. If you are a conservative business, not only are you going to not want to deal with cryptocurrencies anyway, although you recognize, you can see the value, it's just they're too hard. But because of all the fake news that's out there and all the Ponzi talk, whatever, you want to be able to trust your blockchain. So that actually, it's a double whammy. You have reputable, trustworthy, transparent organizations that you're doing business with, which is very important. Wow, that's so cool. So where do you think, because what's going to happen this year, 2019, do you have any predictions for us?
I think and I hope that we are finished with the hype. The market was ridiculously overvalued. A lot of people were punished for that. A lot of people made great money as well. So there's that. I think now we're going to solve real problems.
Wow.
I think over the long term, it's a technology adoption thing, and we're still very early. We're still with the early adopters. But over the long term, it's technology adoption, and those curves kind of look like an S in terms of percent of the population. Whether you look at the technology adoption of automobiles, refrigerators, color televisions, cell phones, it's all some kind of form of an S curve, where the adoption starts slow, then very rapid in the middle, and then sort of tapers off at the end as the last few outliers start adopting it. And in terms of usage, I'm sure that cryptocurrencies will follow the same kind of chart.
Wow, very interesting. Well, I thank you so much for your time today. It's been very informative. I'm going to go back and talk to you about that asset exchange. That sounds like amazing. So we're speaking with Roman Skaskiw. Skaskiw, am I getting it right?
Yes.
Skaskiw from CryptoLions, and also with EuropeChain. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.